So if we're talking about functions, you've seen functions all the way since Algebra 1, and it's a set of input values. We're going to say input. So we're on your yellow notes packet. So a function is made of input values and also output. And you guys, the input is just going to be that independent variable. And so the input values, those are your x's, typically. Your output is going to be your y. Does anyone remember what the more fancy term would be? One is independent and the other one's dependent. Any guesses? Yeah, independent is going to be that x. So I'm going to say that this is that independent value, that input, whatever we put in. And that's what we call the, starts with the D. Okay, the other one, the output is going to be the dependent because it depends on whatever you put on dependent, put in the function. One of them is domain. Which one?
The X.
Yeah, the X, very good. The domain is going to be that input or that independent, and then the range is going to be that output. Good, good, good. So again, lots of different ways to say the same thing. And I wrote X and Y over here, you guys. Those are usual. It's not always going to be the X and Y. Okay. We might use different variables. So and maybe if we're throwing a football and we measure the height, what variable might you use to measure the height? What variable, like any letter out there? You could, that's the measurement term, I agree. What letter?
H.
We might use H, I agree. Like H for height, and then it says, and then the measure it in feet, and then blank is the number of seconds. What might you often use for time? S for seconds, or T is often used. So again, you guys just listed a lot of different variables. We could use any of them, truly. But we often use X and Y. Okay, so now let's think about this. Let's see. Function notations. Oh, yeah. So if I were to say that we're talking about throwing a football. So if we wanted to write Audie and Roman and their football skills as function notation, we're going to write that as H of T, okay? Where T is that input or that time, and H again is that output or that dependent variable, or in this case, the height of that football, okay? And how would we label that on an XY axis? Which one goes where? T and H, which one would go on that X axis? Look at what we put up here. We just said that independent variable is going to go on that x-axis. So this is going to be that time in, what do we say, seconds? Yeah. And then what would be that y, that dependent, is going to be the height of that football. It's going to be the height of that. And that would be probably in feet. Okay, just a little real world for us. And okay, W of X is a function where W is the amount of water in a pool measured in gallons, and X is the length of the pool in meters. Which one is independent? W of X. Yeah, that X, whatever's in our parentheses is going to be that independent. So let's go ahead and say that was X, and that's going to be the length of the pool in meters. Okay. Dependent. Which one of these is the dependent? W of X is how we say that. We're obviously going to say W is going to be the dependent. And that was the how much? Water. Amount of water in gallons. Amount of water in gallons. Okay. This next one I think is pretty self-explanatory. If our function is increasing, if it's increasing, my graph is going to typically look like this. Woo! We have a function that's going up is how I describe that, right, Paxton? My function is going up. And that if the input value, as the input or the x increases, the y values have to also increase for this to be an increasing function. So we're going to call that increase. And the very formal definition, and being in pre-calc, I'm not going to make us write this so formally, but in AP Calc, we'd have to do it this formally. So I just want to expose you to it. They say for all A and B, and let's go ahead and make A and B. A is going to be here, B is going to be here on my graph. for all a and b on this interval. So we're just saying from a to b, the function is increasing if a is less than b. Do you agree a is less than b? A is to the left of b on my x-axis. Then we need to name what this y value would be. If this is a, this y value here is considered f of a. And if that's b, this y value here is considered f of b. And for this function to be increasing, guys, what do you think is what's gonna be the relationship between f of a and f of b? Which one's gotta be bigger? F of b, I love it. So how I'm gonna say is I'm gonna say f of a has to be smaller than f of b, but if I read that backwards, Axel, just like you said it, f of b is greater than f of a. That's the very formal way to say that the function is increasing. All right, if a function is decreasing, it's gonna look like this. Woo! If a function's decreasing, as the input or the x values increase, the output values will always decrease. These y values are getting smaller. And then let's go pick an f of a. I'm going to say this is a, and I'm going to say this is b. And therefore, this y value up here is f of a, and this y value down here is f of b. And for something to be decreasing, now what do I know about that f of a value? The f of a value has to be bigger. Agreed, class. So we're going to say f of a has to be bigger than f of b. Oh, I got to say if a is less than b. Again, very formal. Okay, we're going to say it once, and then I promise I'm not going to make you write it again. What do you think is going on with this function? It says, let f be increasing or decreasing, but not both. State whether the function is increasing or decreasing on the interval. Look, as my x's get bigger, as my inputs get bigger, what are my y values doing? Getting bigger. So what would we say my function f is doing? Increasing. Yep, so we're going to say, this is the formal way of saying it. F is increasing on the interval. What x to what x are we looking at? What are my inputs? From where to where? What x to what x? 4 to 20. Yeah, how we're going to say that is 4 is less than x, which is less than 20. That's how we're going to say it. We're looking at that interval. And because a is less than b, a meaning my 4, b being my 20. So as we're looking from left to right, because a is less than b, then f of a is what to f of b? This sign in between is what we're looking at. My y, yeah. For the function be increasing, f of a has to be smaller than f of b because those y values have to get bigger. So we're going to say it's less than. You've seen a lot of this stuff in your Algebra 1 and Algebra 2, except concavity. I think that's the newest part. Does anyone remember some facts about zeros, or where would I even find zeros on here? Yeah, where my y equals 0, or where it hits the line. What line? The x-axis. Love it. So how I describe it, it's where it crosses the x-axis. Crosses the x-axis. Or, Harper, if you just say when my y is 0, great. We can have multiple. Can have multiple. Have multiple zeros. How many does this graph have? 1, 2, 3. And I think I'm just going to write next to it. That's a 0. That's a 0. That's a 0. All right, y-intercepts. How many can we have of a y-intercept? Yeah, you can only cross that y-axis once. We're going to have only one of them. Let's go ahead and label this guy as my y-intercept. And maybe did you have like my x was 0? I like that. And for my zeros, maybe my y is 0. Right in that fun fact, that's good to know. Zeros can also be called roots. I might add that in there too. Those are the same thing, zeros and roots. Okay, and then the last thing I want to talk about today is concavity. Would you say if I draw this graph that it looks concave up or down? A good old parabola. Does that look concave up or down? like a cup. Up is a cup, okay? If something's down, concave down would look like a frown. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so if something's concave up, I would just go ahead and draw yourself a little picture. There's concave up. If something's concave down, it's like a frown. And then I use some new lingo. A tangent line is what touches a graph just once, and it's just a nice straight line. So, what would you say the slope of this line is here? Positive or negative? Positive. More positive or less positive here? Less positive. What's my slope here? Zero. What's my slope here? Negative. So would you call this part of the graph concave up or concave down? Concave down. What was my slope doing? It was getting, careful, it was positive, and then you said less positive, 0, and then negative. So my slope was decreasing, right? My slope was getting smaller. So a concave up function, the slope of the tangent is always, we said decreasing. Wait, concave. Oh, sorry, that was down. Hold on, that was down. We're talking down. Decreasing here. If something's concave up, look at my slope of my tangent line here. Boom. What would you say that is? Positive or negative? Negative. What about this? Is it negative, but less negative? What about my slope here? 0. What about my slope here? Positive, and then it is more positive. So my slope is doing what? Increasing, and that's what concave up is going to have, that tangent line. If something's straight, it doesn't have concavity. And a point of inflection, this last one, is where we change concavity. So the point of inflection on this graph would be somewhere-ish where we change from concave down to concave up. And what I would do is I would write myself a little note. This is concave down, and then this is concave up. And a point of inflection is where it changes concavity. So I would say my point of inflection is somewhere here where we change from down to up. It's not going to be perfect. And I'm just going to call that a POI, point of inflection.